I think it's about time to give a mom an update. So we brought the boat south because my mom was going through 13 days of straight, real intense radiation, and it was intense for her and for everybody else around her going through it. It was a lot. But she's starting to recover from the effects of radiation, and we won't know the full results for a little while. But the initial scans look pretty good, and the doctors seem somewhat optimistic that they're going to be able to hold things at bay for a little while. We don't really know if a little while is 6 months. We don't really know if it's 2 years. It is terminal. It'll happen at some point. So it kind of makes planning a little bit tricky, obviously. But if she holds steady and things seem good, I've talked with her and my sisters and my grandparents, and we've got, I think, a rough plan for the summer. So we'll see how things progress. It's all subject to change at a moment's notice, depending on how she's doing. But if she can hold steady, we're planning on taking off in the spring or summer and heading up north. And let's check out what those hopeful, optimistic, best case scenario plans look like. So I'm using Google Maps here, and obviously this is not what we want to use for our final route planning and details, but it is pretty handy for kind of getting a ballpark idea and figuring and just kind of, getting a ballpark. So we are here in Harwich, but we are going to kind of bump over in the spring, and we're going to go to Robin's Dad's Slip, which is up in here somewhere in Pocasset. So let's start our journey here. And we're going to hop back through the Cape Cod Canal again. And then after that, truth be told, Robin and I aren't super psyched on stopping anywhere until we get up near Portland, just because this is all home local waters. We've been here before. We'll be back again in the fall, which this is saying if we did that track, it's 153 miles and probably be closer to 200 by the time we tack and do a few things. So part of the reason to go to Portland is, one, the food. We were there last year and the food was very good. But two, Conway and North Conway and the White Mountains are right here, so they are not too terribly far of a drive, and I'd love to get there and do a little bit of climbing and shake some rust off and be in some familiar territory before we start pushing farther north. Ideally, run up to Acadia, and we were there a couple times over the last few years. Would love to do some climbing at Great Head and Otter Cliffs, climb some stuff that we've climbed before, and check out some new things. And then after Bar Harbor, there are a lot of options, because for us, that's all new territory. Neither Robin or I have ever been up there. So my initial thought is to kind of continue along up the Maine coast. We're going to have to go in and check into Canada, so that might become St. John's. I'm not really sure, but let's just assume it is. And then we're going to start exploring, ideally, Nova Scotia. Kind of bumping along the coast. And then we're going to need to do a good resupply before we go too much farther north. So we'll have to do some research on where that is. But ideally, we'll hop in, stop in a couple spots along Nova Scotia, keep bumping along. And when we get up to about here, we'll have some decisions to make. So if we get up here, up to Cape Breton, and my mom's not doing super great, it's going to be time to turn around and hightail it back. But if we get up there, we can either cross through here and come over to Prince Edward Island. We can come up on the outside of Cape Breton. And my ultimate goal, let's assume we come out, is to go over to Newfoundland. So if we did this route, it's a bit over 1,000 miles. My guess it would be more like 1,800 by the time we stopped and then actually went to places. So that would be my ultimate goal. Would be to leave down here, sometime in early mid-June, and I would like to be up in Newfoundland for August, to be able to spend all of August up there and then start working our way back. So we are using Mountain Project here as kind of initial research. I've ordered up some books. Thank you, Madison, for helping me get the guidebook because they don't ship to the United States. But if you go to mountainproject.com, you can kind of go through and search climbing areas all over the world. So you can go to Newfoundland climbing, and there's a bunch of different areas. And where I really want to go is Blow Me Down. And that is in Devil's Bay. And that is what that wall looks like. It comes right out of the bay. So we would pull Victoria up to this rocky coast here and begin the adventure. And there's just tons of mountains and fjords and all sorts of wildness up there to explore. And there's a couple famous routes. There's over 20 routes that have been established. Mountain Project just has 3. Leviathan, Lucifer's Lighthouse, and Betrayer of Hope, which are the 3 512s. So they have the 3 hardest routes listed, I believe. But there are a lot more moderates. So I would love to go up to Blow Me Down and see what we can do up there. And I've sent out the initial kind of save the date rounds of invites because Robin and I are definitely going to need crew for the journey north, and we're definitely going to need crew when we go climbing so that somebody can stay with Arabella and make sure she's good while we're on land goofing off and having fun in the mountains. So yeah, that's the ultimate hope, and we'll sprinkle these details in as planning progresses through the summer. But right now, let's go work on some stack packs and start getting sails on, and we'll show you guys that next time we see you. Sorry, this one's a little bit short. We wanted to give you this update. Things have been a little tough with weather and being out in Western Mass with my mom. And Ben is headed down to Tennessee to go see his family with his son. So we're trying to make it a little bit of a short week for him as well. He definitely deserves it. Can you imagine bringing Arabella in, dropping anchor, bringing Victoria up with our gear? And then Arabella can't stay in here. It faces north-south, and they call it Devil's Bay for a reason. But around the corner, a couple miles, is looks to be a decent cove that we could possibly hang out in. Looks like there's a dock in there if you look at Google Earth. So some more research to do, but seems pretty doable.